Hi there, Serial Trader here. I just want to do a check-in here on Bitcoin. And since the last video, there's been some price action obviously to develop here and form some opinions on. So off that 47,000 low, which is still held for now, there's a couple ways I'm currently tracking. Now, there's more than a couple ways to interpret it. Bitcoin usually makes things difficult, especially if we're in a more choppy corrective period, which we may very well be at this point. But anyways, difficulties aside, I'll go through a couple scenarios that I'm actively tracking right now, and I've been stopped out of a couple trade attempts here on Bitcoin. Fortunately, above my entry, because I'll usually get some sort of short-term downward move, get a little short-term signal, get in, hope that I catch a trending move up. It does start going up, and then it comes down and stops me out above the entry. So no real harm done, but a little frustrating. But frustration is better than damage for sure. So that being said, a couple things here. So on this interpretation, I'm labeling this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a leading diagonal wave 1, and then tentatively working this as some sort of second wave in development. So maybe an ABC down for A, some sort of corrective move up for a B, and then we're working perhaps 5 waves down to complete wave C of 2 of maybe an expanded flat pattern or a running flat if we didn't make a new low below the A wave low. So nothing wrong with this interpretation. Looks like we have a little bit of work in the very near term here to finish off this C wave, if that's in fact what's happening, and then that could set up a nice entry and try and catch a third wave up. Okay, so that scenario is certainly viable, and really this doesn't truly fall apart until we take out that 47,000 or so low. Although if you try a trade here for the C wave, I wouldn't let it go that far. You gotta kind of draw a line, and let's maybe use some retracement levels to try and do that. So if we call that our top of our wave 1, throw up some fib retracements, 50. Okay, so if we come down here and in the expanded flat scenario we take out that A wave low, we can easily go down to the 618 retracement or anywhere in between the 50 and the 618, and that's probably where you'd want to see it. Oh, it looks like we're have to go on the shorter time frame. Looks like we're starting to roll over here a bit in the very low time frame, but you could easily come down to this 618 area or even the 786, right? So at a certain point, you got to pick your spot and then throw what you consider a reasonable stop. Obviously, analytically, this could be valid until you take out that 47,000 low. And it's not like Bitcoin hasn't done almost 100% retracements before and then reverse. That certainly has happened. But I guess if that's what you're trying to go for, the closer you get in to that level without actually taking it out, the tighter your stop can be. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, this is a viable scenario that I'm tracking, and I think possibly maybe sometime overnight or tomorrow I may attempt an entry here. Now, a long entry. Another scenario that I am tracking is, okay, this move we had off of our near 65,000 top down to our 47,000 low, that was only, in this interpretation, mind you, that was only the initial leg down of a more complex, more time-consuming correction, and the subsequent action off of that 47,000 low, we could label this as corrective, and let me just go through that process. And that's where we would have this as still a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leading diagonal wave A. I still like that as the labeling for that initial move off the bottom. Works well. And then we would have this A, B, C down for a B, and then an ending diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for C. So a leading diagonal B wave, then an ending diagonal C wave. Kind of unusual, kind of fancy, but technically valid. Not a huge fan of it, but very possible here. And in that case, we would be looking for, a wave down below 47,000 to potentially, continue this larger move down that we got from 65 to 47. So that is a viable scenario. I guess it's just going to depend how aggressively we start selling off here. I mean, if we start hesitating around this prior level, let's call it around 53,000 or so, if we start getting some hesitation there, even if we stab through a bit, but then start getting a nice reversal, some volume coming in, then maybe we'll revert back to this scenario, the more bullish interpretation, where we're just working a C wave into a potential fib retracement, looking to catch that third wave up. But if we just, smash through 53 and just start dumping hard, blast past the 618 retracement with no reaction, etc., that would have me leaning a little bit more into this, where we're going lower, farther into the 40,000s, maybe even more. Not quite ready to go there yet, but just something I want to bring up as a potential scenario. And again, I've been stopped out a couple times here, trying to, well, really, initially seeing this as a potential leading diagonal wave up. I saw this initial pullback and, made an entry and started going up. So, okay, things are good. But then, got stopped out. And then maybe did that one more time, got stopped out. So now I'd like to see this. Now, let's just say we go in on the, let's go in on the hourly maybe. Just hang on here. 30 minutes. So if I look at this, and if we're working a potential C wave, we'd want to see 5 subwaves to finish the C in a flat or expanded flat, right? So I could say, oh, maybe we got a 1, expanded flat 2, that was a 3, had our 4 up, and maybe right now we're already working our 5th wave to the downside, and this would be a smaller degree move down as well. So I dropped the degree down a bit. So this certainly works, and I kind of like this expanded flat wave too, right? Let me just go 1 degree lower just to kind of highlight that, since it catches my attention. So that works nice. And you can see if this was the end of our wave 4, we did not actually overlap with the termination point. Well, depending. So a couple things here. If we're going to label this as an expanded flat, then we got nowhere near the termination point of wave 1, which would have been around 57,392 here. But if you somehow want to work this and not call this an expanded flat, and then just call this your wave 1 low, and this was just kind of your vertical sharp wave 2, either way, you don't have 4-1 overlap, and that's what these yellow lines here are denominating. But I'll just get rid of that. So that's certainly viable either way. So I think pretty solid that we're working a 5-wave sequence to at least tag or take out this low at 53,844. Now the real question, I'll get back out on the larger time frame here. The real question is, are we working 5 down to finish C of 2, and then we're going to have a nice move up? Or are we working 5 down over here for just the initial 1 of a larger, developing downdraft? We'll have a wave 2 up. After 5 down, we'll have some sort of move up. And depending on the scenario, it'll be either a partial retracement or, a third wave up to the upside, depending on the pattern we're finishing. So yeah, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, just on this shorter time frame. But that's what I'm seeing. I think I'm gonna, if it sets up nice here, I'm gonna attempt to try and catch a decent entry on this 5-wave move down from our little peak we had here, 59,589. So we'll just call it 59.5 or so. I'm gonna try and catch, if I can, a pivot after this 5 looks complete, and then hopefully get some upward action enough that I can at least get my stop to break even or better. And at that point, allow for it to either come down and just stop me out and keep tanking, which, okay, at least you got out relatively unharmed or unharmed. Or if you did catch that over here, if you did catch that C of 2, and we have a nice 1-2, and then we get a 3 up, well, that's obviously the ideal scenario. But just got to stay flexible here, open-minded. No real strong bias here at the moment, other than that I think we will have a short-term entry opportunity to at least try and catch the third wave without putting ourselves in too much of harm's way, knowing that after 5 down, even if it's part of a larger decline, you should get a reactionary wave up to at least get your stop to a point of safety, right? All right, we'll see what happens in the next day or two here. Serial Trader signing off.